Hello, this is Lee Pritchard, composer and audio producer, and this video is about stems and a confusion that can occur with stems. So, if you don't know, stems are basically all of the music layers of a track, or the track broken into several layers. So, for example, this track I've composed, I'll just give you a quick blast of it. This is split into drums, guitar, piano, bass, pad, vocals, and so on. You can see that I've put them into folders. So what that means is the drums, there might be, well, there's 4 layers of drums in this track. This is quite a simple arrangement, so there's not that many layers. Sometimes there can be 10, 15 or more layers in each folder. Guitar, there's just 1 in here. So you get the idea. These are grouped in a way that you could then use. So you could combine these stems, and if you didn't like the guitar part, you could take it out. Or if you didn't like one of the synth parts that are in, you could take one of those out. Or you could just evaluate the levels and change the levels. So it's great flexibility for your production. And so what we do when we're composing it, we put these, I put them into folders, and these tracks then go to something called a bus. And I make my bus the same as the folder. So you might as well consider this the stem. So then there's all these different stems or buses, and then they go to a stereo master. And this is what gets output as your stereo channel. So when we export the files, the stereo master gets put through this whole mastering chain. But then it's important that when I export the stems, it also comes through this mastering chain. If it doesn't, it'll be unmastered. And when you recombine the stems, it won't sound the same. But the one thing I have to do is turn off this maximizer or limiter. And I'll show you why that is. And this is where confusion occurs, because some people think you leave this on. And some people think you turn the mastering chain off completely. If I turn this chain off completely, all of the stems would be unprocessed and they wouldn't sound like the final music file that's in stereo. And the idea is that when you combine these stems again, it should sound the same as the stereo master, or very, very close. And in my experience and knowledge, there's only one way to do that, and that is to export everything via this master bus, but with the limiter off. Now, I'll explain to you on another project why this is the case. So this was my piece of music, and I've exported it in 2 ways. And I'll me open that project now for you. Right, so on here, let's get rid of that. Whoops, gone back to the other one. Get rid of you. Open this. Right, on here, I've got this stereo file here that I've exported. So there you go. You can see that. It looks like a piece of music. And then we've got the individual stems. Now, I've done 1 lot of stems without the limiter on, which is the correct way to do it, but going through all the processing of the master bus. And then I've done another set of stems with the limiter on. Okay, now you can see already that the limiter has a big effect on it. There's the size of the drum waveform here compared to this drum waveform. So it makes them a lot louder. Now, first of all, what I'll do, I've set this up so I can solo each one. I'll play you a little bit of the stereo master, and then during this, I will go to the stems that were exported without the limiter. So here we go. What I should say is, because they're exported without a limiter, I've had to put a limiter back on. And I put the same limiter with the same settings that I used. So this is the caveat, really. When you get these stems, you will have to put a limiter back on. Now, if you are able to remix music using stems, you'll probably know what a limiter is anyway. But if not, it's quite simple. And I'm happy to help anybody with this if they get in touch. But essentially, it just increases the loudness of the music, and I've increased it by plus 14.8 decibels on this piece. And so now when I flick back into between the master and my stereo and my stems exported without the limiter, they are then going through the limiter now on this project to bring them back up to the level. So let's see if you can spot a difference between the stems and the master. Here we go. So there you go. You can hear that there might be a subtle difference, but generally the stems through this limiter sound the same as the master. Now, what you might be thinking, and what some people have said to me before, is, well, why don't you just export everything through the limiter? Well, that causes a problem, and I'll demonstrate this. So the ones that had the limiter on are here on this channel, this blue channel. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to flick back into between the master and the exported stems with the limiter on as they're exported. And you will notice that the levels here will show something quite interesting. Remember, red is danger. So here we go. So there you go. You can see that the stems combined exceed the threshold of 0 dB and go into basically distortion. So it's showing a peak of 3.8 decibels here, which is not good at all. You'll notice on my my other track, it was at minus 0.5 dB, and everything I do is at that level because it's a safe level. But you know, clearly, if I provided you with limited stems and you put them back together, you would have a distorted mess on your hands. Now, I've played this through already, so I know that the highest sort of level it went to was +5. So what you could do is say, well, I'll just lower the tracks by 5 dB, so take it down by -5, and that should work it out. So I've done that here. And it stops it from distorting and peaking. But listen now to the difference. Here's the stereo master. You go, -0.5 for the stereo master. Now, I'll go to the stems. And as you can hear, they're just flat and lifeless now and lower. We're not overloading. But compared to that stereo master, they sound no good at all. So that is why you shouldn't have stems with a limiter on it. You always need the stems without a limiter, and you always need to then put a limiter on them. There's just no way around it that I'm aware of, because it just doesn't, for whatever reason sonically or scientifically, it just doesn't work. And so there is still a bit of confusion over it. But that's my solution, is to give you the stems with just the limiter missing at the end of the chain, and you can just put that back on to bring the volume up. The other benefit is, if you don't like the amount of limiting I've put on, you can adjust it. So let's go back to my exported stems without a limiter. Let's say you didn't like the loudness I'd created, you could change it. So let me just show you how that would work. I'd lower the limiter. Or you might want more. I mean, it's a judgment call, because at some point the limiter starts to destroy the quality of the audio. So that is a judgment call, and when I give you the limiter levels that I've created on the master, that's what I decided was the best value. But like I say, it does give you that flexibility. So there you go. I hope that was helpful, and if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you're looking to commission a composer or a sound designer, I'm available. Alternatively, if you'd like to use any of my library music, links are below for that too. Thank you for watching.